Do more of what's already working. This is how you get some of the easiest wins. It's a lesson I learned in business, and it also applies to personal life in some ways that are obvious and also in some ways that are not obvious at all. There are some pitfalls here. So let's talk a bit about where this idea comes from. And I'm going to tell you how I've been experimenting with applying this to different areas of my life, the different pitfalls I've encountered, and what I've been doing about it. Like I said, I think if you do this, these are some of the easiest wins you can get. So it's very much worth considering. So the idea comes from a business setting, or at least that's where I learned about it. In business, this is one of the most universally useful ideas, is to simply do more of what's already working. So imagine this. Let's say you have a business and you sell two similar products for the same kind of target audience. Product A is selling 100 units a day. Product B is selling 10 units a day. Now, a very easy mistake to make here is to think, well, everybody already knows about product A. Everybody's already buying product A, so there's probably not that much we can get there. But look at product B. Maybe people just don't get yet how great this is. It's just as good as product A. So clearly there's a lot of potential here. We could 10x the sales of product B, and it would only catch up to product A. And then focus your attention on product B, maybe run more ads for product B, and so on. The counterintuitive truth is, it's usually easier to 10x the sales of your best-selling product than to 10x the sales of a lagging product. When you have two products and one of them is selling like gangbusters and the other isn't, you're getting the most valuable signal possible. The market is telling you what people want and are willing to spend money on. And the best thing to do is to just double down on that. And this is also true across all kinds of aspects of business. So it can be things like, traffic channels, right? If you are running ads on one platform and you're getting good results, and on another platform you're not getting great results, just take all the money you're spending on this platform, shove it into the one that's working. That's probably a better use of your funds than trying to make this other platform work. Or if you're getting great sales from social media, but your SEO doesn't really work, it doesn't really lead to more sales. The solution is not like to fill the gaps of your business and say, well, we need to bring our SEO results up. This really only starts mattering when you've completely carpeted one area. And you can actually see this happen with businesses where, certain businesses, let's say Squarespace, you see ads for Squarespace all the time. And what they're basically doing is they're saying, hey, this YouTube thing is working for us. Let's make sure that every single person who's on YouTube who could possibly be a customer of ours sees a Squarespace ad like at least once a day, right? That's the level of coverage we want. And only when we feel like, okay, we've reached every corner of this market in the channel that works for us, only then does it really make sense to expand into other channels. So that's the idea of doubling down on what works, doing more of what's already working. And this also applies to personal life. I think we also have the tendency to make this mistake in our personal lives of thinking like, oh, I have to fix my weaknesses. I have to fill the gaps of my life. And perhaps this comes somewhat from the experience we have in school, where people are counting our mistakes and judging us by our mistakes, right? If you come home with a bunch of good grades and one bad grade, what's the topic of discussion going to be over dinner? All the focus is going to be on that one bad grade. So it's very much we're conditioned to think of well, I have to fill the gaps. I have to get better at the thing that I'm bad at. What makes this worse is negativity bias, which makes it so that a failure stings more than a success feels good. So all of this is working against us, and we have to make a deliberate effort if we want to apply this principle of do more of what already works. So how do we apply this principle to personal life? I think there are many applications. One of them is kind of the most obvious one, which is, lean into your strengths. Things that you're already good at, it's probably good to do more of that, to spend more time on that. And part of that is acknowledging that you simply don't have to fix everything. There's some things about you that maybe are flaws or they're not ideal or whatever, but that doesn't mean that you have to do anything about it. So kind of a simple example from my own life is that when it comes to communicating with other people, I am not great at a certain kind of shallow communication that I do realize is important, but I'm the kind of person where you can send me a text that I might not answer for several days or maybe several weeks, because sometimes I just don't want to be in that, on my phone answering texts, and I'm just kind of diving into an obsession of mine until I come out of it, and then I batch reply to everything I've missed for the last 2 weeks. People who know me know this about me and accept this about me. And they also know that on the other side, when I do communicate with people, I tend to be very present and I tend to go very, very deep. So I'm not great at like shallow chit chat type communication. If you want a friend with whom you can send back and forth funny texts during your boring workday or something, that's not going to be me. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. The same is, if you want to meet someone for just like casual chit chat, that's probably not going to be me. And I'm not trying to get better at that, even though I know that for some people that might be irritating when they send me a text and they don't get anything back for a while. But that's just something about me. Even if it is irritating to some people, even if it is a flaw, I'm not trying to fix that. But then there are some less obvious applications of this, and I think these are the more interesting ones. One of them is related to a video I made recently about doing a past year review, and this can also be a review of the past week, of the past quarter, whatever, where you mainly focus on your wins. What went well? What did you love? What were the best moments, the highlights of the past few months? I'll link to this full video below, but in short, I propose this as an alternative to the usual kind of goal-oriented review, where you look at, okay, I set my goals and I have my milestones, and how many of these milestones did I meet, and did I successfully execute, right? And then again, that puts you in the mindset of looking at, well, what didn't work? Why didn't I reach this one goal? How can I fix that? Instead, if you focus just on what were my wins? What went great? What felt great? That gives you a totally different perspective, where if you do this exercise, you might simply see oh, there's some things actually that are quite obviously things that improve my life quality significantly, and possibly also things that improve my performance or that just work well for me in general. And unless you deliberately pay attention to that, unless you take the time to look at, well, what is it that goes really well? What is it that makes me feel great? It's easy to miss. This is, again, because of the negativity bias. Things that go wrong are really noticeable and really painful. They kind of demand our focus and attention much more than things that go great. So this exercise of just listing your wins is one of the ways in which you can counter the negativity bias. And just doing this might already bring you to some interesting conclusions. Now, I snuck another point in there that I think is important, or at least has been an important lesson for me. For a long time in my life, I was fully performance-oriented. I was all about optimization, optimizing my daily routine for higher performance, greater focus, more output, this kind of thing. I was pretty desperate for success, to be honest, and that's fine to a certain extent. It's definitely something you can take too far, and I did take it too far. So when it comes to applying the idea of do more of what already works to your personal life, I think it's valuable to not only think about performance, not only think about how can I make myself healthier, fitter, better, stronger, more successful, more productive, whatever, but also think about life quality. What makes me feel good? What do I enjoy? What puts me in a flow state? And ironically, I think at least in some cases, maybe in many cases, doing more of that will also have a second order effect of actually leading to more success. And finally, one more way in which you can implement this idea, and this might be the most powerful of them all, is to look at what areas of my life are going the best, what am I best at, and can I carry this over into other areas of my life. And here's where, if we talk about filling the gaps, right, we want to do more of what already works rather than fix problems or fix mistakes. But of course, a very reasonable objection to this is to say, yeah, okay, it's nice. Maybe I have great social skills. I can throw a great party and have fun with my friends. I'm a great conversationalist or whatever. And I can do more of that. I can say, well, these are the moments I enjoy the most. This is something I'm really good at, something like that. But I still have to pay the bills. So there's a problem there where if my social life is great, but I'm broke, then in a way, life is forcing me to focus on filling the gaps, to focus on improving this weakness of mine. And here is where, again, you can actually apply this principle, I believe, and you can look at, well, is there something from the area of my life that is going so well, that I'm so good at, that I could carry over and apply to the area of my life that I want to improve? So here's some examples of what that might look like in practice. So a fairly simple example is, Let's say one of the areas that's going really well in your life is you're performing great in your job. One of the areas that's not going well is you're really struggling with your health and fitness. And if you examine this and ask yourself, well, what is it? What are the aspects? What can I learn about what's going well over here? Well, at my job, maybe it's that you're a great team player. You work really well with other people. You're great at coordinating with people, at motivating each other, and you just enjoy it more, right? You're in a flow state when you're doing teamwork. And then over here, you're trying to take care of your health and fitness like all by yourself. You're trying to force yourself to go to the gym and you kind of hate it. And you think, well, I'm just not disciplined enough. I have to try harder, this kind of thing, right? It's just not working for you. So how do you take what's working over here and apply it over there? Well, in this case, maybe it's simply that you work best in a group, that you're really a team player and you need to apply that to your health and fitness. Maybe stop going to the gym alone and either find gym buddies to take with you or go to a group fitness class or join, a cycling club or something, just something where there's going to be a group of people where all of a sudden you find it way easier to be motivated to do that and the whole thing feels loads better. An example like this from my life has to do with the gray smoothie that I've talked about before. So I created this smoothie recipe and I'll link to the video about this below as well. I created this smoothie recipe as a way to try and get all of my nutritional needs met. And it wasn't working for me, like trying to put all of this stuff that I wanted in my diet into cooked meals or whatever. It kind of wasn't working for me. And I thought, you know what if I just smash it all into a smoothie and kind of get a mega dose of nutrition in one go? Now, it's easy to do that and have a really disgusting smoothie as a result, and I've had many of those. But what I did is I kept fine-tuning the recipe until I arrived at something that is easy to make. It takes very little time. It's super healthy, and I can include whatever supplements I'm into at the moment. I can add my reishi mushroom powder and whatnot in there. And it tastes absolutely delicious. And this combination really worked wonders. Once I had just the right combination of convenience, easy and quick to make, and delicious taste, I kind of got a little bit addicted to this smoothie and I ended up having it all the time. And it did wonders for my health and physique. This was way, way easier than any other diet optimization thing I'd ever tried before. So, okay, great. That's a big win on the nutrition side of my life. So how do I apply this, the thing that made this work, to other areas of my life? Well, ever since I've done this, I've also looked at other areas of my life and looked at how can I remove friction? That's one of the big appeals of this smoothie. It's so easy to make. It doesn't take a lot of planning. It doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of cleanup either. So all of that is like lower friction than pretty much any other meal I can prepare. So I've been looking at what can I do in other areas of my life to do something similar? And also the enjoyment factor. It is important that this smoothie is actually tasty and something I enjoy. And also I make different variations of it depending on what I feel like. So I'm not having the exact same thing all the time. And one of the ways in which I applied that to an adjacent area of my life is that I changed my approach to working out to be low friction and high fun based. I used to do a lot of exercises in my training program that I didn't really enjoy, but I did them because, they're great exercises. They're very efficient to hit the target muscles or whatever. Nowadays, I don't really care about that as much anymore. I do exercises that I enjoy. I design my workouts in such a way that I feel great during and after. And that has actually led to some of the best results I've ever gotten in the gym as well. So see how there's a cross-pollination there that might not be obvious at first glance, but I can look at something that's working in my life, even something as detailed as this smoothie is really working. What is it about this smoothie and how can I apply this to other areas of my life? So there is the idea and some obvious and less obvious applications to seriously upgrade your life quality. However, there's still one problem, which is there's a blind spot. It's likely that some of the stuff that you're best at, some of your greatest talents, are essentially invisible to you because to you, it's just normal. I mean, there's a habituation effect, right? If you're really good at something, you quickly think, well, this is normal. It's normal to be this good at something. You probably also assume that other people are way better at it than they actually are just because it comes so easy to you. So you don't realize some of your greatest talents. So what can we do about this blind spot? Well, one thing is to actually take this into consideration and think about what is going well for me, what is going so well for me that I don't even think about it. What am I so good at that it feels super easy to me? Take that into consideration. And ask other people. It's much easier for someone else to see your talents, especially your biggest talents, than for you to see them in yourself. So I tried this out for myself. I sent this text message to some people who know me well to see what they would answer. And this is a really interesting thing to do in general. I recommend you do this. Send this text to some people you know and see what comes back. Because what I found is that there are certain things that people highlighted for me that indeed I wouldn't have thought of. For example, several people told me something along the lines of that I'm very good at being non-judgmental and accepting and making people feel welcomed and accepted, and maybe also opening people up to accepting themselves more simply because of how much I welcome and accept them. This is one of those things that wouldn't have occurred to me because it's not something I actively do. It's not something I actively work on. It's kind of just something that happens. It's also interesting because in those replies from other people, you see a reflection of their own values, their own aspirations, and sometimes their own qualities that they're projecting onto you. So it's worth doing just for the fun of it, but it can also give you a great hint at some of your hidden talents and some of the things that you're best at that might be sitting in your blind spot. And you can then ask yourself, well, how can I do more of that? How can I double down on my strengths? So now over to you. What is one of your greatest strengths that you could do more of, and what would that look like in your life? Let me know by leaving a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, of course, leave a like, subscribe if you want more, and I'll see you in the next one.